I'm usually a bit too loud anyway, so
Okay, so
yeah.
yeah?
Yeah.
So whenever you're ready.
Oh, sure.
Yeah?
Oh, okay.
Do you want to face this way that way? Absolutely.
Thank you. Shall I start? اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. واتل عليهم نبأ إبراهيم إذ قال لأبيه وقومه ما تعبدون قالوا نعبد أصناما فنظل لها عاكفين قال هل يسمعونكم إذ تدعون أو ينفعونكم أو يضرون قالوا بل وجدنا آباءنا كذلك يفعلون قال أفرأيتم ما كنتم تعبدون أنتم وآباؤكم الأقدمون فإنهم عدو لي إلا رب العالمين الذي خلقني فهو يهديني والذي هو يطعمني ويسقيني وإذا مرضت فهو يشفين الذي خلقني فهو يهدين الذي خلقني فهو يهديني والذي هو يطعمني ويسقيني والذي أطمع أن يغفر لي خطيئتي يوم الدين رب هب لي حكما وألحقني بالصالحين واجعل لي لسان صدق في الآخرين واجعلني من ورثة جنة النعيم واغفر لأبي إنه كان من الضالين ولا تخزني يوم يبعثون يوم لا ينفع مال ولا بنون إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم ولا تخزني يوم يبعثون ولا تخزني يوم يبعثون يوم لا ينفع مال ولا بنون يوم لا ينفع مال ولا بنون إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم صدق الله العظيم صلوات
Muhammad, thank you so much. Today, we are in for a real treat. We have with us Dr. Morteza Karimi-Nia. He is a world-leading expert in early Quranic manuscripts and in the history of tafsir. He is multilingual. He has published books and articles in Persian, in Arabic, and in English. And he has lectured throughout the whole world. I've had the pleasure of his company, and hearing about his travels to lecture on these topics has been so impressive. Codex Mashhad has gained global praise. And I'm really excited, and I'm sure you're all really excited too, to hear about the uncovering of the mysteries of this codex. And we have a real treat that we get to view a copy of this codex after, and an extra special mystery treat as well after. We'll have a talk and then an opportunity to ask some questions. And after that, we either will perform the Maghrib prayer, depending on the time, or we'll have the opportunity for viewing after. So it is with great honor and great pleasure to be able to introduce Dr. Morteza Karimi-Nia. Please welcome him with a salawat.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. It's okay. Thank you, Shahid, and thank you all for being here. First of all, I would like to sincerely thank all my dear friends to organize this event, Time for Change, and kindly invited me to give this presentation here. Today, I would like to speak with you about a remarkable manuscript known as Codex Mashhad, or in Arabic, Mushaf al-Mashhad al-Radhawi. The title Codex Mashhad represents a Latin naming. It's a Latin name. It's an archaic type of naming the manuscript, the old manuscript. In English, we say Mashhad Codex. Both of them are the same. I will try to avoid overly technical or academic language and instead offer a broader, more accessible introduction to this work. The Codex Mashhad is one of the oldest surviving Quranic manuscripts, dating back approximately 1,400 years ago. So today, through this presentation, we are essentially embarking a historical journey and exploration of the Quran area's manuscripts tradition. So today, we will try to walk through the distant corridors of the history and explore what we can learn about the early practice of Quranic writing and learning. I hope all of you can see my PowerPoint here. So, because I would like to show you lots of pictures. Most of us today, Muslim or not, or non-Muslim alike, are familiar with printed editions of the Quran or with translation of it available across the world in English, Persian, or other language all over the world. Young children today learn to read the Quran using these printed copies. This is what a modern printed Quran looks like. It's in format. It's a format most of us grow up with and continue to use to learn, to teach it, to learn it, to recite it, and to memorize it. The most well-known calligrapher of this standard edition is Osman Taha, a very famous master scribe, a Syrian master scribe. And today, millions of copies of this Quran are printed and distributed globally every year. Some with translations, other without. But if we go back just 150 years, we find Quranic manuscripts that were not printed, but written by hand. Each one copied line by line by a human scribe, using ink on paper, or sometimes on parchment. Some of the old manuscript has been copied on parchment or on skins of animals, on sheep, or skins of sheens or cows. These manuscripts were not mass-produced. They were individually created, some beautifully illuminated with ornamentation, with some pictures, others written in a more ordinary hand. In Iran, for instance, we have many such examples from Qajar period, nearly 200 years ago, 2 centuries before. This is one Qajar copies of the Quran with illumination at the margin of the Surah Al-Fatiha. So let's go back even further. In the time of Ottoman Empire and the Safavid dynasty, between the 8th and 12th century, Islamic century, in Christian century, it is correspond to 14th to 18th century, approximately. We find Quranic manuscripts that look quite different from those of today. The decoration, the script, the size, all of it follows different conventions. Many of these Ottoman and Safavid manuscripts survive today in the libraries and museums. Their script remain relatively legible, and some include stunning examples of Islamic illuminations. This is another example of an Ottoman Quran, and this is one example, two examples of some Safavid Qurans, nearly 500 years ago or 600 years ago. Now let us take a step further back in the history. Although Quranic writing was widespread across the Islamic world, from Spain to Indonesia, from west to the east, the main centers of Quranic manuscript production 1,000 years ago were Iran, Iraq, and to a lesser degree Syria and Egypt. From those regions, we have some of the most beautiful examples of Quran manuscripts, some with Persian translations, some with Turkish translations, some without, others without, produced under the dynasties such as the Seljuks, Ilkhanids, Mamluks, and Taymurids. Let us go through some of these manuscripts. Now, before that, let us say something about Quran production in India, China, and in Africa. In India, China, and Malaysia, Indonesia, and Africa, we also find Quranic manuscript in very different forms. Here is some example from India. This is from subcontinent, and this is a kind of script, we called it Bihari script in India, nearly 600 years ago. And this is a Chinese Quran located in British Library now. You can find it there. And another one, a Quran from China preserved in British Library that has been transcribed in 19th century, but with Chinese translation. This is a Maghrebi Quran from Andalus or North Africa near Morocco or somewhere else. It's a Maghrebi Kufi. This is from Sub-Saharan Africa, maybe from Nigeria, an African Quran from the middle of from Central Africa. And this one is from Ethiopia in 19th century. Different kind of writing Qurans by hand on paper through the history. And also some of these manuscripts in Africa are copied on wood, on wooden tablets, tables. In some parts of Africa, large wooden pieces were traditionally used for teaching Quran to students. This is a remarkable cultural practice in itself. These examples, some of the wooden Quran used in Africa for teaching and learning and memorizing the text of the Quran. And some examples from nearly 1,000 years ago in Iraq, in Iran, in north of Iran, in Khorasan, in Transoxiana, from Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and also in Egypt, in Syria. This copy was transcribed by a scholar from the city of Qom nearly 1,000 years ago. This one again from a figure from the city of Qom nearly 900 years ago. This is from the city of Bayhaq in Khurasan, nearly 900 years ago, by a Shi'i figure Yahya ibn Hibatullah al-Husayni. And the next one is from his grandson, Ali ibn Muhammad ibn Yahya al-Husayni, so decorated with full of illuminations, and all of these were produced just by hand. This one is from the city of Sinjar, north of Iraq. And this is with Persian translation, with old Persian translation from Uzbekistan, north of Iran. And this is one fascinating example with Turkish and Persian translation. All of them are transcribed as an interliner. You can see both of these translations nearly 800 years ago. And this is also with Persian translation from the Seljuk, from era. These manuscripts are not only artistic objects, they contain an enormous amount of information, architectural details, cultural and social references, and features relevant to Quranic science and textual transmissions. But this brings us to a critical question. Can we access manuscript evidence of the Quran from the 1st century of Islam? That is from 1,400 years ago. Some Western scholars in recent decades have suggested that the Quran as we have it today may not have existed in complete and final form at the very beginning of Islam. According to them, it may have taken up to 2 centuries for the full standardized Quranic text to emerge. That's why for Muslim and also for many serious Western researchers, it is extremely important to find reliable evidence of Quranic transcription from the 1st Islamic century. Let me now briefly speak about the early script used in the Quranic manuscript from the 1st to the 4th Islamic centuries. In the first century after Hijrah, correspond to the 7th century in Christian calendar, the Quran was written in what is called Hijazi script, a very simple, early form of the Arabic, which was written on parchment. In the 2nd century, Kufic script became more common, and Quranic writing began to follow more regular and decorative formats. Later on, in Iran, in eastern Iran and Khurasan, Kufi evolved further into what we call Eastern Kufic or Iranian Kufic, a kind of stylized ornamental script that many ordinary readers today would find difficult to read it. These are some examples of Eastern Kufic of Quran. Can anyone read the text? That tries. On the right side, there is a Eastern. It's a mixture of the script and painting. It's a very artificial text, Arabic text. In the first line, وَقَالُوا اتَّخَذَ الرَّحْمَنُ. Ar-Rahman in the first line and also in the first letter of the second line also. Ar-Rahmanu waladan. لَقَدْ جِئْتُمْ شَيْئًا إِدَّا. Idda is the first word in the third line. تكاد السماوات ينفطرن أو يتفطرن. Both of these readings are in the manuscript. So it's so difficult to read it. And some of the scribes in the 4th century and 5th century in Khorasan started to produce the Quran most artistic and very difficult to read for the ordinary people. Here we can compare examples of these 3 early scribes: Hijazi, Kufi, and Eastern Kufi. This one. On the right side is the Hijazi one from the 1st century, and the middle, a Kufic one from the 2nd or 3rd century, and on the left, an example of Eastern Kufic. All dating from the first 4 centuries after Islam. Now, let us focus on the Hijazi script from the 1st century. While we have hundreds of Kufic script from the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th centuries, only around 50 manuscript fragments in Hijazi script have survived to the present day. Most of them contains just a few leaves. For example, the famous Birmingham Qur'an, located in the Cadbury Library in the University of Birmingham, contains or consists of only 2 folios, 2 pages. Among all of these, one manuscript stands out, a Hijazi Quran preserved in the library of the shrine of Imam al-Riza in Mashhad. It is the most complete surviving Hijazi manuscript from the 1st Islamic century. This one. I called it Codex Mashhad. Internal textual and codicological evidence strongly suggests that this manuscript was originally transcribed in Medina during the 1st century after Hijrah. It means that in 7th century in Christian calendar. It remains in Iraq for 1 or 2 centuries and later transformed to Iran, to central Iran. This is our map, from Medina to Iraq, and then from Iraq to central Iran, and then to the city of Nishabur, near to the city Mashhad in Khorasan, in Great Khorasan. While we do not know exactly when and how it arrived in Khorasan, we do know that by the 6th century, by the end of the 5th century and the early 6th century after Hijrah, around the 12th century in Christian calendar, it had reached the city of Nishapur. At that time, the owner of the manuscript, the owner of the codex, endowed it as a waqf to the shrine of Imam al-Riza, and added a formal waqfiyya, an endowment inscription, at the beginning of the book. This is waqfiyya. This is his text of his endowment. It's in Arabic, and I translated it in English. This mushaf, which is in handwriting of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. So the owner of the codex believed or claimed that the codex was transcribed by the hand of Imam Ali. But it cannot be true. He believes that. Imam Ali, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, peace be upon him, is donated to the shrine of the Lord, the blissful Imam, the martyr Abu al-Hasan, Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha, may God's mercy be upon him, who is buried at Tus. This endowment is made by the owner Ali ibn Abi al-Qasim al-Muqri al-Sarawi. This is the name of the owner, seeking closeness to the Almighty God and His satisfaction. May God fulfill His wishes. Since then, nearly 1,000 years ago, the manuscript has remained until now under the care of the shrine of Imam al-Riza in Mashhad. Until recently, however, this 1st century manuscript had never been formally introduced or studied. its historical value has gone unrecognized. About 15 years ago, while I was researching early Quranic manuscript at the Astana Quds Library, I had the rare chance to discover its significance. I began to study it in depth, comparing it with other early Quranic manuscripts, and I realized its exceptional value. I then committed myself to publishing it as a high-quality academic facsimile. This is the facsimile printed publishing of the Codex Mashhad. Last year, the goal was achieved. The Codex Mashhad was published in facsimile edition, and now it's available for researchers around the world. Let me show you a sample page from this publication. On the right, you see a high-resolution image of the original folio. On the left, we have the same text transcribed in modern Arabic script, accompanied by historical and scholarly notes explaining its feature for the researchers, for specialists. I also included a full introduction in Arabic and English analyzing the codex internal characteristics and offering a historical overview of its journey. The last point is about its dating. Do we have time? Okay, 5 minutes. Oh, it's okay. How was the manuscript dated? We used two methods to confirm its dating. First, a close textual and orthographic analysis of its script and language. Second, radiocarbon dating. For the latter, we extract 8 small pieces from the parchment of the codex, of the original codex, and sent them to the 4 leading laboratories in Oxford, Arizona, University in United States, and also in Zurich, in Switzerland. We combined and analyzed the results, and the combined data clearly point to a production date in the second half of the first Islamic century, or the mid-7th century in Christian calendar. After the facsimile edition was published, many leading scholars, both Shia and Sunni, from across the Islamic world, as well as some Western scholars, some Western academic specializing in Quranic studies, welcomed the publication and emphasized its importance. Among them, one can refer to some Shi'i Maraji and also some Western academic professors in the West. For example, Michael from Princeton University, Nicolas Sinai from Oxford University, François Desroches from Collège de France in Paris, and also a very famous Sunni figure from Baghdad University or Tikrit University in Iraq, Ghanem Qaddouri al-Hamad. I hope this topic has been both useful and interesting for all of you, and that it may spark curiosity and appreciation for Quranic manuscript among the younger generations, encouraging them to pursue major historical research in the future. Today, I am deeply honored and delighted if I have been able to share even a brief introduction to this precious manuscript with you in this warm and thoughtful gathering. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's incredible to hear of your research, of your journey, and then the immense value and Yeah, and this uncovering of this codex is amazing to hear. And as I mentioned at the beginning, Dr. Morteza is an expert, a world-leading expert in Quranic manuscripts. And so I invite questions on Quranic manuscripts or the Mashhad Codex, or even the history of tafsir, which is Dr. Morteza's other expertise. I'll begin with the first question, if you don't mind, just to get you thinking about your questions. I'm interested in the nuqta, the dots. Could you please explain, did they begin in manuscripts in a certain location, a geographical location, or was it at a certain time that they began to become more common?
You mean the dots on the early manuscript or on the medieval manuscript or recent manuscript?
When did they begin?
Yeah, okay. In the early manuscript of the Quran, in Hijazi script, in the 1st century of Islam, the dots exist. Some Arabic texts that remain as an inscription before Islam or on papyrus after very early in the after beginning of Islam. There exist some of these documents with some dots. So the dot was familiar for the Arab writers, but some of them used the text or transcribed the text or copied the text not fully dotted, but partially. And this is what we can see in, for example, the Birmingham manuscript, in Hijazi script. But later on Kufic manuscripts, some of the copyists used to write the whole text of the Quran without any dots. So it's easy for the reciter to recite the text according to different readings. You know that we have different kind of reading, qira'at, ikhtilaf al-qira'at, variant reading. So in the 2nd or 3rd, sometimes in the 4th century, some of the manuscripts were produced without dots. But in the first place, in the 1st century, we have dots at the same time of the transcribing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Questions?
Thank you very much. So my question is, which qira'at does this mushaf belong to?
Issue of qira'at. Yeah. We have some canonical reading or qira'at sab, or sometimes we say it qira'at ash, 10 readings. But beside these, we have lots of non-canonical readings, and these non-canonical readings were current in the 1st centuries of Islam, in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th centuries. And this codex is according to a mixture of all qira'at. You can find different kind of qira'at in this mushaf. And you can not find just a qira'at of hafs or reading of hafs. And in other manuscripts, in Kufic or Eastern Kufic or even in Naskh style, in later centuries, you can find different kind of qira'at. Nowadays, in our contemporary Qurans, in the east part of the world of Islam, for example, in Syria, Egypt, in Syria, Iraq, Iran, India, Turkey, and Indonesia, China, all of these, the Quran produced in qira'at of hafs, reading of hafs. But in North Africa, you can find the other kind of readings, according to Qalun from Warsh, or Qalun from Nafi, or Warsh from Nafi. And also in Sudan, in south of Egypt, you can find Masahif, the codex of Quran, according to qira'at of Abu Amr, for example.
Thank you. Thank you. More questions? Can I come to you after?
That was so interesting. Thank you. I have 2 questions, if I might. The first one is, how is it that the writing materials have been so well preserved? I'm thinking about the paper has not eaten by white ants, and and the ink faded. I mean, that's my first question. And the second one is that wonderful Qur'an, which is at the University of Birmingham. Where does that fit into the sequence of the other copies that you've been referring to?
Where does that Birmingham Qur'an fit in the order or the sequence?
Thank you. Concerning the first question about the material of writing, we have 2 kind of material, 2 essential material for writing the Quran. In the first centuries, all people, before Islam or after Islam, all people in this area use skins of animals as parchment, and it produced for writing the text of the, for example, Bible or Qur'ans in the 1st, 2nd, 4th, 3rd, 4th century. But after 4th century, or in the 4th century, little by little, the paper, different kind of papers were produced, and the following manuscript of the Quran were produced on paper, but the paper are different kind. For example, paper from Samarkand are very different from the papers in Nishabur, and papers in Nishabur are very different from Baghdad. You can find these kind of different paper on the museums or libraries. For example, in British Library, you can find lots of different Qurans produced in different centuries on paper, different paper. Concerning the second question about the Birmingham manuscript, Hijazi manuscript, this is really a very old manuscript of the Quran, belong to the 1st century, but just contains 2 folios. According to carbon dating, they did as a test, just 1 test. They did. I did 8 tests on the parchment of the Codex Mashhad, but the Birmingham was subject to 1 test. According to their test, this manuscript belongs to the first half of the 1st century. So the Birmingham Codex, Birmingham folios, comes before the Codex Mashhad, and the Codex Mashhad is from the second half of the 1st century.
Assalamu alaikum. In a lot of the tafsir works, we often read that when speaking about a specific ayah, the author will say, according to this Sahabi, like Ibn Abbas maybe read this verse like this, with a different wording. And you mentioned, obviously, this has like a mixture of qira'at. So is there examples, is it exactly cohesive with what we have today, or are there certain verses which are worded slightly differently within this early copy?
Thank you for your. This is very, very academic question, and very difficult to say it in a general manner. But the reading of some Sahaba are reported in the books of tafsir. For example, Ibn Mas'ud or Ubay ibn Ka'b, some of the companions of the Prophet had their own readings, and all of these readings are recorded in the books of in the books of Ulum al-Quran or in the books of tafsir. But in the manuscript of the Qurans nowadays we have such as Codex Mashhad or Birmingham or the other manuscript all over the world from this 1st century or the other centuries, we just have find canonical reading without adding any other words to the text of the Quran. So the text of the Quran in these manuscripts are as the same text we have today, but you can read it according to another qira'ah. For example, ayahsabu or ayahsebu, both of them are among the qira'at. Or, for example, nushran bayna yaday or bushran bayna yaday. Both of them are among the canonical reading. But apart from this, beside these canonical readings, we have some companions reading that was recorded in the books of tafsir, as you mentioned it. These reading rarely found in these manuscripts, rarely found.
I'm coming to your question. Do any of the ladies have a question?
Thank you for that delightful presentation. It's very educational. I'm interested more on the statement that I don't know whether the guy who donated as a waqf made that statement and not the owner. Yes, please. In there, he said that this is a script written by Imam Ali, Karamallahu wajh. Now, do you specifically, because you said that's a lie, it's not correct. Is there a reason you said that? And can you go through with that, please, as a very specific point by point? Because I'm interested in historical analysis of that bit. Thank you.
Yeah, concerning the ascription, this codex to the handwriting, to the hand of the Imam Ali, this is not the only manuscript of the Quran that has been ascribed to the writing of Imam Ali. We have nearly 70 manuscripts all over the world in the libraries and museums that the owner of the codices claimed that this is a copy of, this is the handwriting of Imam Ali. In this, I have published an article both in Arabic and English. You can refer to the text of my article, and I present some arguments against this ascription and show that all this ascription cannot be true because of different problems. Some of these manuscripts are on paper, and the paper did not exist at the time of the Imam, at the time of the Imam Ali. Some of these manuscripts were transcribed by a very recent hand, for example, by in Eastern Kufic, which was prevalent or current in Khorasan, did not exist at the time of the Imam Ali, and other Sahaba, for example, at the time of Osman ibn Affan, the Caliph Osman. We have nearly 15 manuscripts in Turkey, in Egypt, in Russia, that all of these manuscripts claim to be the hand of Caliph Osman. But none of these ascriptions can be true according to some of weakness of the argument. This is a kind of increasing the value of the production of the codex, so that they could sell these manuscript to one ruler, for example, in Iran or Iraq or somewhere else. So let me refer you to my article concerning all these arguments against this ascription.
Thank you. I can take one last quick question, if there's a quick question. Hussein.
Sure. Mine's not quick. Okay. It might be quick. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for the talk. Sort of two hopefully short questions. First one was probably the shortest one is, in terms of the Mashhad Codex, you said about 200 odd pages were there, is that right? 50 odd. So is that in order of the Quran, or are they different pages as part of what we have today? Do they run in like sort of order, or are they separate parts? That's the first question. And the second question, in terms of the scripts, the Hijazi, the Kufi, is that solely down to their location, or was there something else which changed the way that the scripts were written?
The whole text of the Codex Mashhad, all the folios we have today, is 252 folios. That means the Codex nowadays, as we have now in the Astan Ghos library, contains more than 500 pages, exactly 504 pages. And some pages of these manuscripts has lost. And this is very natural. Nearly all parts of the Birmingham Qur'an has lost. Just 2 folios remain. Concerning the Codex Mashhad, we have 252 folios. So it's very big. And this is the most complete version among the Hijazi codices of the Quran from the 1st century. And concerning the second question about the difference between Hijazi and Kufic script, I didn't have time to mention the main differences, the main characteristics of each of these kind of script. There are lots of differences. I have mentioned all of these characteristics in my introduction to the Codex Mashhad. Briefly, the graphical shape of the Hijazi script inclined to the right, and the text, the whole text on the pages, sometimes, yeah, you can find here. These are the Hijazi script. The graphical shape of the text tends to the right, and the whole text, the whole surface, the whole surface of the page is used for writing, and without any ornamentation. So it's very simple kind of writing at the first time of the Quranic transcription. Concerning the regions, yes, the Hijazi manuscripts, nearly all of them belongs to Medina or to Damascus. These two centers were centers for production, the early codices in Hijazi style. But the Kufic manuscript comes later on the 2nd, 3rd, and so on century. Nearly all of them belongs to Iraq, Basra and Kufa.
Thank you so much, Dr. Morteza. Thank you. As we just conclude this part of the presentation and the question and answer, can we please recognize and appreciate the wonderful presentation and conclude this with a salawat? Please. We're now going to have some announcements. We will then have the mystery treat I mentioned. We will then have 10 minutes to be able to view Mashhad Codex here, and maybe you'll have the opportunity to ask any more questions to Dr. Morteza. Adhan will be at 8:45 prompt, and then there'll be another opportunity to view the Codex as well after.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Junior Park Run will take place at Bruton Park in Solihull this Sunday at 9 AM. Next Monday, 5th May, T4C is organising a hike and picnic at Licky Hills. More details will be shared on the group soon, inshallah. Our next programme will be on Thursday, 16th May by Mateen Azam, The Universe Within You from Despair to Discipline, a personal journey of transformation. Discover what happens when you unlock the power that's always been within you. Refreshments will be served in the conference room and Maghrib will be at 8:45 PM. Please recite Surah Al-Fatiha for all the people suffering around the world, Marhum Munis Priyarli Nasur, and Marhum Sajjad Hussain Ramtullah and all Marhumin. Al-Fatiha.
Can I please welcome Sheikh Mahmood to share with us the extra special treat that we have for everyone this evening.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, thank you, Doctor, for that wonderful presentation. I've learned a lot. Jazakumullah. And we have something with us today, as it was well befitting to bring it up today, as we were talking about the script. As this is an art that may be slowly be fading away, scribing things by hand, because a lot of things are done by computers nowadays. Here with us we have the handwritten script of the work known as Sahifa as-Sajjadiyya. This is considered to be one of the great treasures in Islamic literature. Some scholars have given it honorifics, such as Ukht al-Qur'an, Injil Ahl al-Bayt, etc. It was done in the year 2007, so about 18 years ago. It was commissioned to a scribe in India, and it took the scribe about 6 months to complete. And in its complete form, it has about 319 pages. So this is something you can actually see from not so far of an era in front of you today. It was commissioned in order to make the script more accessible to readers. That was the whole point. Especially in the Naskh, which is more prevalent amongst the subcontinent readers. And I think, of course, the doctor will be able to tell more about the script and possibly even more about the Sahifa if you have any questions. So thank you for that, and please take the opportunity to look at it. Ahsantu.
Thank you so much, Sheikh Mahmood. So please, everyone is welcome. Come here to the front. Sheikh Mahmood will showcase the Sahifa, and Dr. Morteza will showcase the Codex Mashhad. Everyone is very welcome to come and have a look. So please do come forward if you wish to, and we'll have adhan in about 10 minutes' time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.